There are 3 foods sitting in your kitchen right now that look completely harmless. Your doctor has probably never mentioned them. You have probably been eating them for years, some of them for decades, without a second thought. And right now, today, those 3 foods may be quietly dismantling the very system that keeps you upright, steady, and independent, your legs, not dramatically. Not with obvious warning signs. Slowly. Silently. In a way that most people only notice in hindsight, when the balance is already off, when the steps already feel heavier than they used to, when the legs that carried them through 65 years of life start to feel less reliable than they remember. Here is why this matters in terms that cannot be ignored. Falls are the #1 cause of fatal injury in adults over 65. Not heart disease. Not cancer. Falls. And the research on falls is consistent and sobering. Most of them do not happen because of a sudden dramatic event. They happen because of a gradual, silent erosion of leg strength, nerve sensitivity, and balance capacity that built up over months and years before anyone noticed the pattern. What you eat is directly connected to that erosion. Or to its prevention. Today you are going to learn both sides of that equation. 3 foods that are working against your legs right now, including one that almost every senior eats regularly because it has a strong reputation for being healthy. And 3 foods that actively fight back, that support circulation, protect nerves, stabilize blood sugar, and keep the legs that carry you through your life doing exactly that. Stay through the entire video because the food I reveal last in the avoid category is the one that surprises people most. It is the one they never see coming. And it may be the one doing the most quiet damage. And if this channel is where you want to keep getting this kind of specific, honest, practical health information for adults over 60, subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell. Every week we deliver exactly this. Now let us start with the good news. The 3 foods fighting for your legs. Protective food 1, beets. Before you make a face, stay with me. Because beets are doing something inside your body after 65 that most people desperately need and almost nobody is getting enough of. Here is the problem that almost never gets discussed in a standard medical appointment. As you get older, your blood vessels gradually stiffen and narrow. This is not a disease. It is a physiological reality of aging. And the consequence is that the blood carrying oxygen and nutrients to your legs, your feet, and your brain has a progressively harder time reaching where it needs to go. Think of your circulatory system as a garden hose. When the hose is wide open and flexible, water rushes through easily and reaches every part of the garden. When that hose stiffens and narrows, the pressure drops. And the parts of the garden furthest from the water source are the first to dry out. In your body, the parts furthest from your heart are your feet and your lower legs. That is not a coincidence. It is anatomy. And it is exactly why older adults feel the effects of poor circulation there first: the coldness, the numbness, the heaviness, the steps that feel less certain than they used to. Beets contain natural compounds called nitrates. When you eat beets, your body converts those nitrates into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a chemical signal that tells your blood vessels to relax and widen. Wider blood vessels mean better blood flow. Better blood flow to your legs means stronger muscles, better balance, and better sensation in the feet whose nerve signals are keeping you upright. A study that followed older adults who consumed beet juice before walking found that they walked measurably faster and with measurably less effort than the control group who did not. That is not a marginal finding. That is your cardiovascular system receiving real functional support from a real food. Beets also contain folate, which helps protect the brain as it ages, and a class of antioxidants that give them their deep red color and that work continuously to protect blood vessel walls from the slow inflammatory damage that accumulates over years of chronic low-grade oxidative stress. How to eat them: roasted with a drizzle of olive oil. Sliced into a salad. Blended into a smoothie with berries and ginger where the flavor disappears entirely but the nitrates remain fully intact. A few servings per week produces meaningful benefit over time. Hold the concept of blood flow in mind as we move through the rest of this video. It is going to come up again, and not in a good way, when we get to the foods to avoid. Protective food 2, sweet potatoes. This is not the same as a regular potato. The difference between a sweet potato and a white potato is enormous from the perspective of what happens inside an aging body, and most people have never been told why. Sweet potatoes are rich in beta-carotene. Inside your body, beta-carotene converts into vitamin A. Vitamin A is essential for maintaining sharp vision. And for adults over 65, your vision is directly and measurably connected to your fall risk. When vision declines without being adequately corrected, you misjudge distances. You miss the edge of a step. You do not see the corner of the rug. The result is a fall that looked like bad luck but was actually a predictable consequence of unaddressed visual decline. But the more important reason sweet potatoes belong on your plate after 65 has to do with blood sugar, specifically with what blood sugar spikes do to the small nerves in your feet over time. Your feet are in constant communication with your brain. The tiny nerve sensors in the soles of your feet are sending a continuous stream of positional information upward. Ground is flat, slight incline, surface is uneven, adjust. That constant neurological conversation between your feet and your brain is the foundation of your balance. It is happening every second you are upright without your awareness. But when blood sugar spikes repeatedly after meals, and then crashes, that cycle over months and years damages the small blood vessels that feed those nerves. The nerve signals weaken. The sensors go quieter. The conversation between your feet and your brain becomes less reliable. And when that happens, balance deteriorates in a way that no amount of leg strengthening exercise can fully correct, because the problem is not in the muscles. It is in the signal. Sweet potatoes have a significantly lower glycemic index than white potatoes. They release their energy slowly and steadily rather than all at once. That steady release protects the small vessels and the nerve signals that your balance depends on. They also provide magnesium, potassium, and a range of B vitamins that support muscle function and help reduce the nighttime leg cramps that affect a significant proportion of older adults and that most people accept as an unavoidable part of aging. They are not inevitable. They are frequently a nutritional deficiency with a nutritional solution. How to eat them: baked in their skin, the skin adds fiber. Mashed without excessive butter or cream. Cubed into soups and stews where they absorb surrounding flavors while providing their full nutritional profile. Protective food 3, kale. Before you dismiss this one, consider a specific fact about kale that most people have never heard, one that changes how relevant it is to the particular vulnerabilities of an aging body. Kale is one of the richest plant sources of vitamin K1 that exists. And vitamin K performs a function inside the body that is directly connected to one of the most underdiscussed causes of poor leg circulation after 65. As the body ages, calcium can begin accumulating in the wrong places. Instead of depositing into bone where it belongs, it can begin depositing inside arterial walls. When that happens, the arteries stiffen and harden. Blood has a harder time flowing through them. And once again we return to the same fundamental problem: poor circulation to the lower body, weaker legs, colder feet, numbness, and a balance problem that builds so gradually that most people cannot identify when it started. Vitamin K helps guide calcium back to the correct destination, into bones and away from arteries. It is not a drug. It is a nutrient performing a regulatory function that your body was designed to carry out, but that requires adequate raw material to do so. Kale also contains lutein, a compound most people associate only with eye health, but that has been shown in research to cross into the brain and support the processing speed and cognitive sharpness that determines how quickly you react when your balance is challenged. Most falls do not happen because the legs suddenly fail. They happen because the legs wobbled and the brain did not respond fast enough to correct the wobble. That reaction window is a fraction of a second. What you eat over months and years either keeps that window sharp or allows it to widen until one day it is just wide enough to miss. How to eat it: massage raw kale leaves with a small amount of olive oil for 2 minutes before eating. This breaks down the tough fibers and makes it significantly easier to digest. Sautéed lightly with garlic. Chopped into soups. Blended into smoothies. 1 to 2 cups several times per week provides meaningful amounts of both vitamin K and lutein. The 3 foods working against your legs. Now the other side of the equation. And this is the part one want you to pay close attention to, because these are not obscure ingredients. These are foods with strong reputations for being harmless or even healthy. And after 65 that reputation is not accurate. Harmful food 1, corn. Corn is at every cookout. Every family dinner. Creamed corn, corn on the cob, corn tortillas, cornbread, corn oil used in cooking, it is embedded in the American diet in ways most people never stop to examine. And corn itself is not poison. That is not the point. The point is what happens when it is consumed regularly by an aging body that is already managing chronic inflammation as a baseline condition. Corn is very high in omega-6 fatty acids. And the ratio between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids in your diet has a direct measurable effect on the level of systemic inflammation your body is running at any given time. Omega-3 fatty acids reduce inflammation. Omega-6 fatty acids in excess promote it. Most Americans, and particularly older adults eating a traditional American diet, are consuming dramatically more omega-6 than omega-3. The result is a body running at a chronic low-grade inflammatory state that feels like nothing in the short term but that is steadily working against blood vessels, joints, and the small nerves in the lower legs and feet. That chronic inflammation has no obvious announcement. There is no sharp pain. No clear moment where something changes. Just a gradual process, over months and seasons, where walking feels a little harder, standing feels a little less certain, and the legs feel a little less reliable than they did a year ago. Corn also has a high glycemic index, producing the blood sugar spikes that damage small vessels and quiet nerve signals the same way we discussed with sweet potatoes. The adjustment is not elimination. It is reduction and replacement. Replacing corn several times per week with the protective foods covered earlier removes a quiet inflammatory input and replaces it with active protection. Your legs will respond before your mind has consciously registered what changed. Harmful food 2, canned tomatoes. Fresh tomatoes are genuinely beneficial. They contain lycopene, a powerful antioxidant with documented cardiovascular protective effects. Fresh tomatoes belong on the plate of any adult over 65. Canned tomatoes are a different matter. And the difference matters for two distinct reasons. The first is BPA. Tomatoes are highly acidic. That acidity causes the lining of most commercial cans, which contains a compound called bisphenol A, to leach into the food during both processing and storage. BPA has been linked in research to increased systemic inflammation and hormonal disruption. Both of those consequences are particularly damaging in aging bodies that are already working to maintain hormonal balance and manage baseline inflammation. The second is sodium. Most commercially canned tomatoes contain very high levels of added sodium. And excess sodium after 65 is a specific circulatory problem that goes beyond blood pressure. Excess sodium causes the body to retain fluid. That fluid retention in the legs and lower body, the swelling, the puffiness, the tightness in the calves and ankles, is not merely uncomfortable. It places direct pressure on the small blood vessels that supply oxygen and nutrients to the muscles and nerves of the lower legs. That pressure reduces how efficiently those muscles and nerves receive what they need to function properly. The fix is specific and simple. Fresh tomatoes when possible. When canned tomatoes are necessary, look for BPA-free lining on the label and no salt added. That one targeted substitution, made consistently, removes two quiet circulatory stressors from your diet simultaneously. You are not cooking less. You are not changing the dish. You are choosing a version of the same ingredient that does not quietly work against the legs you are trying to protect. Harmful food 3, iceberg lettuce. This is the one that surprises people most. And it is the one I most want you to share with the people you love, because it is the food whose reputation is most completely disconnected from its actual nutritional reality. Iceberg lettuce is not harmful in the way that the previous two foods are harmful. It does not trigger inflammation. It does not spike blood sugar. It does not introduce chemical compounds into your food. What it does is something arguably more insidious for an aging body. It takes up space. Iceberg lettuce is approximately 96% water. It contains almost no vitamin K. Almost no folate. Almost no lutein. Almost no potassium or magnesium. Almost no meaningful protective compounds of any kind. And here is the consequence that most people never connect to their legs. You can only eat a finite amount of food in a day. Every forkful of something that gives your body almost nothing is a forkful you are not eating of something that could genuinely protect you. Researchers call this nutrient displacement. And over months and years the displacement adds up to real deficiencies. Deficiencies in vitamin K mean calcium is not being properly directed, arteries stiffen, circulation to the legs declines. Deficiencies in folate mean inflammation is not being adequately managed, blood vessels accumulate damage more readily. Deficiencies in magnesium mean muscle function is less supported, nighttime leg cramps increase, sleep quality declines, leg strength erodes. The person building a large salad every single day from iceberg lettuce is doing something admirable. The effort is real. The intention is right. But the nutritional return on that effort is almost zero. And while they are filling that bowl with 96% water, they are not filling it with kale or spinach or arugula that would be providing vitamin K, lutein, folate, magnesium, and potassium, the exact nutrients their aging body is most in need of. The fix requires no additional effort. The same bowl. The same preparation time. The same salad habit they have already built. Just a different base, dark leafy greens instead of iceberg lettuce. That single swap made consistently is one of the highest return nutritional adjustments an adult over 65 can make without changing anything else about how they eat. Here is what I want you to sit with before you close this video. The legs that carry you through your life are not failing because of aging alone. They are failing, or thriving, in direct response to the inputs you give them every single day at the table. And the gap between legs that feel strong and reliable at 75 and legs that feel heavy and uncertain at 75 is built one meal at a time over the years preceding that morning. Beets are opening your blood vessels and feeding your legs the circulation they have been missing. Sweet potatoes are stabilizing the blood sugar fluctuations that are quietly damaging the nerve signals keeping you upright. Kale is directing calcium where it belongs, protecting arterial flexibility, and sharpening the cognitive reaction speed that catches you before a stumble becomes a fall. Corn, eaten several times weekly, is adding inflammatory fuel to a fire you may not even know is burning, slowly narrowing the vessels and quieting the nerves that your balance depends on. Canned tomatoes, with their BPA and excess sodium, are adding chemical stress and circulatory pressure to a system that needs precisely the opposite. And iceberg lettuce, the one that surprises people most, is filling the bowl where real nutrition should be going with water and almost nothing else. None of this requires a complicated protocol. None of it requires expensive supplements or a complete dietary overhaul. It requires understanding the connection, the specific, measurable, physiological connection, between what goes on your plate and what happens inside your legs. And then making a few consistent, targeted choices that honor that connection. You have earned the right to walk freely through these years. To step with confidence. To stand on your own 2 feet without the fear that has become background noise for too many adults over 65. Every meal is a quiet decision about whether you are moving toward that or away from it. And every single day you still have the power to make that decision count. Drop a comment right now and tell me which of these 6 foods surprised you most today. And tell me which one change you are making starting with your next meal. I read every comment and every answer matters to someone else watching this who has not yet made the connection you just made. Share this video with one person over 65 in your life. One person whose legs have been getting heavier, whose balance has been feeling less certain, who has been eating iceberg lettuce every day thinking they are doing everything right. You now have information they need and do not have. Sharing it costs 30 seconds and could change the trajectory of their next year. Subscribe now. Turn on the notification bell. Because next week we are covering the 5 supplements that clinical research consistently shows are most depleted in adults over 65, and whose deficiency directly drives the muscle loss, nerve damage, and balance decline most people attribute entirely to aging. Specific supplements, specific doses, specific timing. Information that will not come from a standard appointment but that could change how your legs feel 6 months from now. Hit subscribe. Make the swap today.